Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Doug Brown. I am the son of Dr. W. E. and Ann Brown. My dad was a veterinary here in Kingsley from 1937 to 1963. Probably everybody in Kingsley knew him as Doc Brown, but his actual name was Bill. My ties to Kingsley probably go back to 1907 when my grandparents, Michael and Deborah Turkington, along with my mother, and my uncle, William John Turkington, better known as Turk, immigrated from Ireland and arrived in Ellis Island on July 7th in 1907. Subsequently moving to Kingsley, living in Corn, and then on moving again to Kingsley where my grandfather operated a blacksmith business, retiring in 1955. My memories of Kingsley are all good. I can't recall a bad memory of Kingsley growing up. Over the years, I worked probably for every farmer in the area. Baling hay or walking beans was the way a young man back in those days earned money. I recall getting paid a whopping salary of 25 cents an hour. I think that eventually worked up to 50 cents an hour. A lot of highlights. Probably one was in 1959 where we had a very good baseball team. Kingsley always had good baseball teams. Had some semi-pro teams played here. Where we won in 1959, won the state championship, which was exciting for a lot of local guys. Some of them are still here today. I believe, if I recall, I think we went that season and maybe lost one game. So that was a pretty phenomenal feat. Has anybody ever talked about Bill Turkington or Turk's Restaurant?
No, talk about that. I've been meaning.
Because my uncle Bill Turkington was a character in itself. You could fill your tape with probably some stories about Bill Turkington. But Bill Turkington was my uncle. Again, he immigrated with my grandparents coming from Ireland, and Turk was a great guy, a jack of all trades. He was at one time he was the town cop. He was a head of maintenance. He was a practical joker with no comparison. He used to call the women up in Kingsley and tell them that they would be temporarily shutting the water off, so it would, in order to facilitate their use of water, they would have to fill their bathtubs up with water. That was just one of his typical tricks. He ran a clothing store for years. He ran a gas station for several years. He worked on tower construction for several years, but he's probably more famous for a couple of restaurants that he operated in Kingsley, and one was Turk's Restaurant, where it was the hangout for the high school kids. Is after every football games, basketball games, or any school events. That was kind of the hangout where we went to Turk's Restaurant.
Where was this?
This was down, it was used to be run by Ruth Gross. It was where Ruth's is at, and I don't know what's in that building now.
Right. Used to be, and then they made a hole and put the Ivy Room next.
The Ivy Room was next to it.
It was like a lunch counter type with booths and stuff. That was Turk's.
Right. Okay. And one story comes to particular mind that it's always stuck in my mind is the restaurant was filled one evening with high school kids, and after some function, and some bikers come into town, and rough-looking characters park their bikes in front of my uncle's restaurant, and they get out and they come in. They have leather vests on, no shirts. Just a rough-looking crew, and you could tell that they were probably looking for trouble. And they come in the restaurant, set at a booth, and I remember distinctly watching my uncle watch these four guys as they come in, sitting at the booth, and he had a leery eye of them until they started. But he waited on them as nothing was any different, until one took a switchblade out and started poking the top of the counter. And my uncle politely went over and told him to put that knife away or he'd be asked to leave. And this guy got up, grabbed a hold of my uncle, and made the threat with a knife to my uncle that this old man better shut up if he didn't want any trouble. And right away I knew this guy made one big mistake, because my uncle took him outside and showed him who was the old man, and never to be seen again. And it was just another memory of a time in Kingsley when things were, even with trouble like that, it was kind of a joke and innocent time growing up.
Somebody, if you go down and listen to the DVD, somebody down there, I can't remember who it was, said that when she was a little girl, she used to go roller skating around town. Everybody had those roller skates and stuff, you know, that you just clipped onto your shoes. And Bill Turkington would say, you need to get downtown because the fountain down there is spraying lemonade. It's putting out lemonade instead of water. And that was just kind of a running joke he had.
That was, yeah, he had several jokes like that. There was elephants on parade down by the sand pit, and
what was that one? I didn't.
He'd tell the kids that there was a parade going by the sand pit, and it had pink elephants, or I don't recall all the details of that, but he was continually pulling practical jokes like that with everybody in town, and it was just one of the many characters that was part of the fabric of Kingsley.